Well, it's winter time outside, so that means winter projects. So what we got here is probably 68 or 9 Suzuki T20, but this is an auction find and I feel good about this bike running. This bike, the T20, is pretty revolutionary for its time. I mean, it was a hot rod, so to speak, back in the day. It was dead nuts reliable, had some pretty cool technical innovations, if you want to call them that. I'll go over a couple of those real quick, and then we'll get into making this thing run. One of them was a built-in tach. I cleaned this glass so we could see it. This bike has, what's that, 14,000 miles on it. Put the tachometer there, speedo there. Pretty cool. Also, kickstart is on this side of the bike, but the transmission was another major innovation. It is a 6-speed. This is back in a generation where most of the bikes were 4 speeds, maybe 5s. This is a 6-speed. It is a twin carburetor, 250cc engine, dual exhaust, as you can tell. Another feature that came out on this bike that was used for the rest of Suzuki 2-stroke production is it has what's called the PosiForce oil system. Got a petcock here, and oil goes from here, lubes everything in the engine, the mains, and that got away from doing your premix in the tank. So this was the first big major change among the Suzuki motorcycles. They call this the El Camino here in the US. See this hose here that goes from here to here? That'll fill up with fuel. You can tell how much gas you got in it. It's like a gas gauge, if you will. This thing has had some, I guess you could call it, restoration work done on it. The tank has been primed. Tell the cases have been cleaned. Some of the stuff has been shined up. This side cover is from a year or two newer bike than this. Has the wrong emblem on it. The key was stuck. Over the course of a couple of weeks, I've been soaking this key, cleaning it out, and it turns now. So we're going to see if it'll run. Our throttle cable's completely stuck. This guy here. Cables in this are not in good shape. The clutch works, but the throttle cable doesn't do anything, so I'm going to see if I can take it off and get some lube in there. I'm also going to pop the carburetors off and let them soak in some kind of parts cleaner. I'll need to pull the bowls off. I don't have carburetor kits, so hopefully they'll come off without tearing them. Otherwise, we're going to be making some. So we're going to get the carbs off. That'll allow me to get in here and work the slides, maybe get those freed up. Right quick, we're going to check for spark. Alright. Got some NGKs in it that look pretty new. Oops, if I can get the socket on there. Okay. So when I bought this bike, I wanted to be at the auction as early as possible. It was cold winter time, about like it is now, and my objective was to find out if the engine was stuck or if it wasn't. The price on it was $750, and these bikes are pretty rare. And I figured if the engine spun, it was worth $750. They're not too bad. We'll go ahead and clean them. Looks like it has been run. Alright, I got both plugs pulled out and cleaned up a little bit. I need to throw some fresh ones in it, probably, but one is here. The other one is right there. We're going to check for sparkles. I'm going to turn the key on one click. See what she does. If she's got spark, I'm confident she'll run. Hey, that's a spark. Is the other one sparking? Yep. She's going to run, guys. Let's go ahead and take off the side cover. It'll probably help in the removal of these boots. One thing I did notice while I was messing with the key a few weeks ago is it's missing the battery box, which should be in here. I ordered one of those on eBay. Fortunately, we don't need it to run the bike, so that's not going to be a problem with this. Well, here we have the carburetors tied together by the little tickler knobs, which I don't dare move, so I get some penetrating oil on. This one's all the way down, that's all the way up. They look pretty good, but we haven't popped the bowls off yet, so we don't know. So I got the old carburetors cleaned up, ready to go back in. I also did a real good cleanup job on these sliders. One over there and this one. You want these to move freely in the bores, so you make sure your bores are clean and lightly oiled with like WD-40 or light machine oil, and then you make sure these are nice and clean, because if these don't slide right, you're going to have problems. Here you see, I told you about that Posi-Force oil injection system. These are the oil lines. There's an oil pump in there that's driven by this cable, which is attached to these cables. So as you give it more and more throttle, it kicks more and more oil into the system, and it oils, I believe, the main bearings, and through the main bearings in the crankshaft, the bottom end bolts. So pretty revolutionary thing. If these move or start to move, then it means we got our cables freed up. Oh, see, they're both moving a little. That's great. I also squirted it up into the bottom of these. You probably saw that too. Okay, so we're going to pop this guy back in here. There's a notch slot there. They got to be lined up with a little slot in there. Okay, she's dropped in. The cable is still pretty stiff on the old throttle, so I'm not going to go full on crazy trying to tighten it, or it'll jam them back up again. I fogged it down with the penetrating oil so that hopefully it will cycle and do what it's supposed to do. Oh, come on. Okay, so this guy will be here. I think that my oil pump drive down here inside of the engine is stuck in the up position. You give her throttle, and see this? Squeeze the throttle, it pulls it down. It should pull itself down. So this screw is already loose, or should I say appears to be stuck and or cross-threaded. I don't know. Never can tell with these old antiques. Straight down. Let's see. Right here we have the cable that comes down. This is our cable. See how it's got that slack in it? It should be all the way down right now. Give it the throttle. Cable goes up. This little fella here does not go down. Okay, there it went. So we're going to squirt a whole bunch of penetrating oil on that. Probably leave this cover off while we do our test run. Well, off camera, I put gas in the tank. And it came right back out. She's got holes in the bottom of it. Apparently not as pristine as I thought it was. So, time for some red coat tank sealer. Here's the old tank. She is what I would say not mint. It's not terrible. It's repairable. Also got some pinholes around there that are so small you can't see them. Then those guys. What I need to do is get the thing structurally solid enough that I can put my tank sealer in it. Well, I gotta tell you, this has been a treat. That side wasn't bad. Still had pretty good structural integrity. Didn't really blow out much at all. This side, not so much. That's because it's on the leaning side of the bike, so most of the fuel will puddle here. And yeah, I've been chasing blowouts. The second the wire touches it, blows out. But I wanted to show you all what it would look like before I ground it down. Got it all welded up pretty good. I didn't dare take these welds any farther down as far as grinding them goes. I mean, I can float that out just fine with filler. I could get it ground down where it was perfectly flush, but the metal around the welds is so thin that I don't dare do that. But it's all metal. It's a good solid repair, and I can't see any daylight shining through there. One thing I do need to do, there's a big wad of Bondo right here. It's pretty porous. I'm gonna have to take it out anyways, but from the inside it looks like, almost looks like there's a hole punched in it. So I guess I'm gonna go ahead and grind that out real quick and bring you back. It looks like they got it real hot, like it had a dent in it or something. It's not shaped right, so need to get it out anyways. Let you see what I find out there. I'm not even sure what I'm looking at here. Actually, I know exactly what I'm looking at. It's one of those cave and pave jobs, as we call them in the bodywork industry. Just smash it and throw some Bondo in it. So it looks like it's got some sort of patchwork going along here. Like this is a big square of metal. Like they just, how do you even get holes in the top of a tank? I don't know, maybe it's inexplicable. I was able to get in here and straighten out a few other dings. Get a pretty good job here of knocking out a huge crease that was in there. I can work it a little bit more before I weld a patch in. I was also able to straighten all these edges around where they had caved it in after they made the little patch. So need to make me a little patch and trim it to shape and go ahead and weld it in. It ain't flawless. It's gonna require a little bit of filler, but it's better than that. And I had hammered this flat to use it for a patch. So, considering that's what I started with, so it turned out pretty good, really. And all the repairs I've made on it, including the ones on the bottom, they're all metal. So there ain't no fiberglass in this thing. Will require some filler, but my next step is to put the Evapo-Rust in it, let it soak, all filled all the way up to the top. I put some primer on my repair areas, down on the bottom and there on the top. And after that dried, I put a coating of clear silicone. What that's gonna do is just seal it, make sure that no moisture gets through if there's like a pinhole in a weld or something. And it's been sitting with my Evapo-Rust overnight, hasn't leaked a drop. And this silicone will come right off. So, see if we can see any improvement. Can't really tell. That stuff cooks in there for about 24 hours and it'll start looking a whole lot better. I've had this fella soaking with the Evapo-Rust for, I don't know, 4 or 5 days. It's plenty good enough for what we got to do. Trying to get it to focus. Well, I put a little mud on the old fuel tank where we made our repairs. She's freshly sealed with the red coat. Came out quite nice, actually. I mean, it's not ready for paint yet, but it's much, much better than it was. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the crossover tube, or the fuel gauge tube in. So assuming this thing's probably gonna run, a fella has a job to do. And the job is mount this 2.75 by 18 tire on this rim. Somebody put a big one on there and it hits everything. Show you what I mean. When a fella tries to roll the rig, she does this. It's the tire knobs hitting the back of them brackets. I'm gonna take this cable out. It's already loose. It's kinked in a few spots, and once we drive this thing, I don't want it to be binding up and breaking anything. At a minimum, it's gonna be making a horrible noise. Get them out of the way, pop the tire off. Let's see. I don't know how well you can tell on the camera, but this tire that I took off is quite a bit taller and wider than the one I need to put back on. Well, I'll tell you, that's a sight better. I also gave the brake drum surface a quick sand with some 80 and then 120, get all the crusty off of it. I'm gonna grease the bearings, make sure everything's oiled up, and we'll put it back together. Got the brakes adjusted where they're grabbing a little. I think we're ready to put the tank back on. Now these older Suzukis, they don't have like a year breakout unless you happen to have a title for it. But one pretty reliable way to tell is the main wiring harness usually has a year stamped on it. This one, 1965. So that's around about when it was built. So 65 or 6 is what year model this would be. Well, it's dark outside and really cold. I can't actually take it outside and run it, but I gotta know, will it do the thing or not? I've checked the case oil, little deal over there. This guy, this is the oil injection tank that runs that oil pump. It's fine as well. Well, the tank is back on. I think it's got enough gas in it to get the carbs filled up. Guess we'll go ahead and crank it. It's got 2 positions, a 1 and a 2. One's probably reserve, one's probably normal. Let's go ahead and pop this guy off. See which of the 2 it is. Let's see. Okay. All right, so position 1 is flowing fuel regardless, so let's turn the tap on. I should put fuel in both bowls, which it is. These guys are seeping a little, which is to be expected, but I don't even care right now. I just want to see it run. Well guys, we got a little bit of a fuel leak, but it's just because my hoses are too small. But it's time for a moment of truth, and I gotta tell you, I am pumped up. It should run fine. I mean, the carburetors are probably way out of adjustment and everything, but it should fire. I've been waiting for this for a long time. So without further ado, let's see if she'll do anything. All right, I'll kick her through once or twice real easy with the ignition off. Just get a little fuel in the cylinders maybe. Got a lot of compression. All right, I believe up is choke. I have no idea where she's at on idle, so if she starts revving to the moon, if she happens to start, I'm just gonna shut the key back off, and if that don't work, I'll whoop. Okay, should be first position. Cross your fingers. First time in 20, 30 years, something like that. Fun than anyone should have with the clothes on. Hang around until the next video in this segment, and we'll see what we got into when we took it outside to run it.